Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday. A lot of things to get to today. We're going to do a little buy or sell action, get to what to watch for, and, of course, preview a little Arkansas and LSU. That basketball game's happening tonight, by the way, which also, by the way, as a reminder, we'll be at Brothers Meat House tonight for the watch party, doing a little trivia action at 7 p.m., starting there with some Razorback trivia. I have some prizes to give away. And then at 8 p.m. will be the game where we start live streaming. And then following the game, a little post-game action with Pod at the Palace. So going to be a lot of streams, a full day, full night ahead. But, fellas, we're feeling pretty good on a Tuesday. How's everything going?
Yeah, I think feeling pretty good is a nice way to sum it up. I'm definitely feeling better in general than I was yesterday. Something about game day, even when the team is struggling, it feels like they haven't won in a month. You get a little bit excited. You get ready for it, and then us getting together and going out to Brothers and doing the watch party and everything. I've missed that, man. I had so much fun. We were doing that last season. And I knew that was kind of a goal of ours to start doing that again once we got to these SEC road games, and here we are. So I'm pretty pumped up for it, and it's going to be a marathon. I'm ready for it. Let's do this.
I'm excited as well. Yeah, we're going to be up late a little bit tonight with the 8 p.m. tip-off on a Tuesday, but it's a good day to go 1-0, and that's what the Arkansas Razorbacks are going to do.
That's right. And I know people who may have been looking it up, they're like, wait a minute, hold on a second. We looked up Brothers, and they close at 9. Don't worry. Staying open late. Now, the kitchen will close at 9, which, if you're eating at 9 o'clock, it's going to be a late night for you anyways. But the bar will remain open throughout the rest of the game and while we're there. So that's really what's important.
That's big-time information.
Yes. Yeah,
I'm not saying personally, but,
I mean, depending on how the game goes, it may be one of those nights. But, yeah, it's going to be a great time, folks. So come on out. It's at 405 5th Street there in Bentonville, starting up at 7 o'clock tonight. And we'll do live streams, too. So there'll be 3 separate live streams back to back to back. So just lock in with us here at Inside Arkansas. Be sure to get ready, and we'll have some fun with that here tonight. But as we know, Arkansas, LSU, it's happening, and it's in Baton Rouge. Both teams 0-3. Someone's going to be 0-4, guys. Someone's going to be 0-4. Someone's going to have their first SEC win. And it's just, I don't know. It's at the point where I know, Curse, you've talked a lot about on Pod at the Palace and kind of getting ready just from a few days ago from that loss in Florida and into now. But, man, if there's ever a must win, I hate that. I know we all hate that term. But, jeez, this has us feel that you got to win this, man. You have to win this game if you want any chance of having success this year.
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. And it doesn't mean that you have to win the 14 after that, but this is just one that you can't drop. And, we look at the schedule, and the good thing for Arkansas is they don't have, any bad losses, and there's so many opportunities for them to add some meat to the bone on the resume. Like you look at LSU, and I understand they're 0-3 in the league right now. They are probably going to be one of the teams that finishes near the bottom. That's just kind of where this group is at the end of the year. So it's one that, buddy, you lose that one and probably wouldn't age well at all, but you can't fall to 0-4. Like we've talked about the national discourse is what it is, but man, just the trajectory that would put you on, the vibes. We're already talking about this team's confidence. This has to be a get right game. And it's got to be one of those, like, I mean, hey, I hope they go win by 20 or whatever tonight. Just find a way to get it done. And whatever that takes, it could look as ugly as that Miami road win did back in December. I don't care, but this is a really, really crucial game if these guys are going to get back on track this season. I believe that for sure.
As a baseball guy, I've got to use some baseball references here. It's like when you're in a huge slump and you're looking up at the big screen and your batting average is now 187 and you're like, God dang, man, everybody thought I was going to hit 300 this year. You can't get 12 hits in one at bat. But what you can do is you can go up, you can have a good approach, you can put one right up the middle, get on base, help your team win. I think Arkansas needs to obviously take this one game at a time. That's kind of what we talked about. And I think this is clearly one that you can't afford, because you look down the road and you're going to have plenty of tough challenges. And I'm not saying LSU's not a tough challenge. It's not easy to go on the road and win. And LSU's not like a completely useless team. They're not like just a pushover like a Maryland Eastern Shore, where like if you're a competent team, you should beat them by 60. But again, to y'all's point, it's like you look down the road and you see some of those tougher tests and you just feel like you can't survive what's coming if you don't have a win or two in your back pocket. So Arkansas really needs this one. Also sneaky, like, not saying this would be like a great win if Arkansas wins, but Arkansas only has one true road win on their resume, and it's at Miami. This team is not as bad as that Miami team. LSU, I believe they're sitting, last I checked, they were like 68, 69 in the net. So not great, not in that tournament range, but like a road win over a top 75 net team, like that would sneaky be like one of the better wins, might be the best win on Arkansas's resume besides maybe that Michigan game. Yeah,
Believe
I mean,
it or
like,
not. Yeah.
you know, and Arkansas sitting there in the top 50 range in the net. So I'm not saying like, hey, if Arkansas wins this game, it's smooth sailing the rest of the way, but it would certainly do a lot for this fan base. They'd be able to exhale a little bit, and it would be a lot easier to talk yourself into whatever this team is going to do down the stretch, whatever they're going to do moving forward against Missouri, Georgia, and Oklahoma. You got to win this one. And I think if you do that, then we can start having some fun, maybe reassess where Arkansas is at. But all of these conversations come to a screeching halt if Arkansas drops one in Baton Rouge tonight.
Yeah, it's going to have to happen, and it's going to have to happen at least in a way. Like, I almost don't even care. I don't care how it looks. I don't care if it's a final score of 50-49, whatever it is. Just win. I mean, I don't like it for the sake of our own, wasting your time. But yeah, like you just got to win, no matter how it happens. And so, that's what it comes down to. And folks, also, we'll get to your chats if you want to get in on that, as well as the phone calls. Phone lines are open at 478-344-6623. I wanted to bring this up, too, because we were discussing it last night in our group text. It's amazing sometimes, we're all Razorback fans are very critical and skeptical right now of the basketball program, just like everybody else, and the direction it will go. But it is amazing, though, that sometimes the ones that are over the top and always super supportive and super positive about everything really are kind of coming out of the woodwork for trying to justify and make reasons and excuses for why the things aren't going as well as they are. And I think one of the things that was discussed is about, hey, listen, it's the first year for John Calipari. It takes a little while for these things to get going. I mean, what other first-year coaches go into their program and do really well? It's amazing how, that so many people are looking at that and saying that that's a legitimate excuse as to why the team's struggling so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was probably something you could maybe hang your hat on several years ago. But, with the transfer portal and just the way college basketball is now with roster construction, it's not a thing. This is a what have you done for me lately situation. It's an instant gratification. And when you go out and get a Hall of Fame head coach with the type of NIL resources that Cal has, it's fair and reasonable to have high expectations and not crazy. Again, we said this yesterday. None of us were up here saying, oh, it's Final Four or bust, but you expect to have a really good basketball team. You expect them to be further along than they are. You don't expect them to be 0-3 in SEC play with a couple home losses. And I just look around the country because I got to thinking about this. It's like, all right, well, I always think about Kentucky naturally, right? Because John Calipari came from Kentucky. Mark Pope, he's in the exact same situation over there with a bunch of new guys or whatever, and they're killing it. We know that. I mean, they're 13-3. They're 13th in the net rankings, but he's not the only one. And I'm not trying to pile on Cal here. I want Arkansas to trust me. I want Arkansas. I need them to figure it out for the sake of my sanity with the pie at the palace. But think about some of the other first-year coaches right now. Dusty May at Michigan. They're 13-3. They're 11th in the net. Darian DeVries at West Virginia. That program was a mess. He gets over there. They're 12-3. They were in the AP top 25 last week. They're top 30 in the net. Jared Calhoun at Utah State takes over for Danny Sprinkle. They're 16-1. They're 31st in the net. Pat Kelsey at Louisville. We know what Kenny Payne, where that program was with him. They're 12-5. They're 35th in the net. Mark Byington at Vanderbilt. They're 13-3 right now, 42nd in the net. Andy Enfield leaves USC, goes to SMU. They're 12-4. They're 46th in the net. Kevin Young replaces Mark Pope over at BYU. They're 11-5, 48th in the net. All first-year coaches at their new jobs who either have less resources or less of a track record than John Calipari, or both, but they're all currently outperforming Arkansas by record, by net ranking, more quality victories. I don't think we're asking too much here to say that Arkansas should be in a better situation than it is. Doesn't mean they can't turn it around, but what we can say right now, it's disappointing, and people shouldn't be browbeaten for feeling that way or being pissed off about it.
No, people should definitely be pissed off. I think when you accept, oh, it's the first year and this shouldn't be a finished product, while that could be true in a sense of like, hey, this shouldn't be a title contender. Like we said, we didn't expect Final Four. that doesn't mean that anything less than Final Four is acceptable. Like we all had our various expectations going into the year. I think we were all pretty aligned in like making the Sweet 16 would be a successful year one for Cal. Everything is subject to change in sports and in life. So obviously we've adjusted our expectations. We can do that. And we can kind of look at some things. Okay, Adu's banged up. Nelly Davis might not be good. So we adjust our expectations, but that doesn't mean that what's happened 0-3 in the SEC, like that should be, people should be fine with that. And it's just revisionist history to try and look back and be like, oh, actually year one, like we shouldn't have expected anything out of Cal either way. I mean, Curtis just listed off, that was beautiful there, listed off all the first year coaches that are doing better than Cal, who, by the way, had lower expectations than Cal, and they're outperforming expectations, most of those guys at least. And so, yeah, I just can't buy that like anything this team does is acceptable. We've all adjusted and tempered our expectations, but like we said yesterday on the show, you got to get to that NCAA tournament. I think this team missing the NCAA tournament would be an abject disaster. And we said that preseason. There's footage of the internet. That's what I like about this show. Everything we say, we have a digital footprint. You can go back before the season, and we were saying if this team missed the NCAA tournament, I believe it was one of our like buy or sell segments that we did where it was, or what's more likely, where it was like Arkansas misses the NCAA tournament or they win the national title in football or something like that. And we were like, maybe win the national title in football, because we thought it was that ridiculous. So I think it's very much revisionist history to try and look back and be like, oh, no, yeah, nobody really expected anything out of this team year one. It's just not true, and I don't know why anyone would try and make that argument.
But Curtis, they played 3 top 25 opponents in the SEC, and how can you expect the team that's in first-year coach of John Calipari to win any of those games against top 25 teams? How can you expect that?
Well, maybe because he has a $10 million NIL budget that can get him the type of talent and roster that should be able to do that, first of all. But, it hasn't stopped any of those guys that I mentioned a few minutes ago. Actually, every single one of them, besides BYU, has more quad 1, quad 2 wins, which is wins over quality opponents than Arkansas does right now. And I bet their second best win is better than Lipscomb. So, that's again, if we want to give the Hall of Fame head coach a free pass for it, you look at his quote unquote peers who have less of a track record and less resources in the exact same situation, and they're doing better right now. So
I also think playing the first year card is just a misunderstanding of kind of where we're at in the world. And I understand we all are on the same page that NIL has changed the game, that the transfer portal has changed the game. But it's like, I think in college sports, it's easier than ever to kind of get things ramped up in year one. Hell, we've seen guys in football, basketball, and baseball turn programs completely around in a span of 1 or 2 years. And so I think like anyone who's citing year one is like, oh yeah, you just simply can't expect a coach to be good in year one, doesn't really understand the game we're playing and understand all the resources, like you mentioned, the NIL budget for building this roster, bringing talented players from Kentucky over here with you, like an Adu Thero, like a DJ Wagner, like a Big Z, having your entire freshman class that you had signed in Kentucky, they all come over as well. You get 2 of the most coveted transfers in the country. Like, we talk about how everything's subject to change. When Arkansas went out and built that roster, the expectation was set. They're falling well short of that right now. Will they end up being closer to that? I don't know, but I don't know why anyone would be trying to lie and pretend like Arkansas is not underachieving to this point in the season.
Yeah, I wouldn't understand it either. And it's funny how the roster, anytime that gets brought up as far as, with the way things have changed and gone, it goes back to people can be very selective in the arguments that they make. Because say if I think examples have been used, Houston Nutt in football, back in how you took over, the season went great his first year. It's like, okay, well, was that because of, I thought, doesn't it take a while to get your players in? Doesn't it take a while to get your things in? Well, it didn't affect him. My point is that you got to look at the circumstances all differently. Like you can't just always in a cookie cutter fashion say, well, first year coach, no matter what the circumstance is, it's going to take a while. That's not how that works. I know that it was a COVID year and it was different schedule and everything, but Arkansas went from winning 1 SEC game in 3 years in football. Sam Pittman comes in, who's never been a head coach before, and then won 3 in the COVID year. So it was like, what was that? Well, what was that? I thought it took a little while. I thought it took a while to get these guys going and everything. Point is, if depending on the coach, depending on the roster, depending on the situation, everything's different. And you can't always just assume that if things are going badly, or things are, it takes a little while. But what if Cal was doing great this year, guys? What if he was killing it? What if he was a top 10 team? Like, what would people be saying? Would they be saying, I'm shocked that in his first year he's this good? I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting to take a year or two. No one's expecting that. So you can't make that argument even when it's only fair to you and saying, oh, well, because things are bad, I expected it to go this way. I mean, come on. What do you think? I think it's a dumb argument, and you just, like everything, make arguments for the sake of what fits your narrative at the end of the day.
I mean, Cal's kind of in a lose-lose here because like they're not meeting expectations, so everybody's piling on him, which, hey, I mean, fair enough. And I'm sure he's not happy about where they're at either. But I mean, like if they were 3-0 in the SEC right now and 14-2 or whatever the heck that would be, people would just be like, yeah, well, it must be nice to have all that NIL. He still wouldn't get credit for it. That man's not gonna get credit for anything.
Well, and also, you mentioned the NIL. It's so funny how in football, when Arkansas underachieves, that's the go-to excuse. That's the go-to thing. Is like, well, I mean, what are you going to do? You just don't have the NIL. So now you have one of the most, I think there was that study before the season where it was like many coaches around the country believed Arkansas had the single best NIL situation in college basketball. And so Arkansas is underachieving in a different way. And somehow we are still finding excuses to make it inexcusable.
Yeah. But Curtis, I mean, it takes a while for this team to gel. I mean, this is a bunch of new players that have never played together before. I mean, you really can't expect them after 16, 17 games to come together and be a collective unit that goes out and wins games. You just can't expect that.
I hate when we're in January having these conversations, and I'll give them a little bit of leeway from the standpoint of they were bit by the injury bug, and that impacted their ability to gel and find the chemistry and everything like that. But I mean, all these guys, for the most part, with the exception of a game here or there, have been back at it here for a while now. And, I think it comes down to some roster construction issues, which is not having enough depth. I think that's a lesson that Cal's probably learned. We'll see if he addresses it in the offseason. But I don't know. I was never really on board with the complete roster overhaul thing. Like if you go look at KenPom, they've got like a minutes continuity thing where it's just like year over year, the guys who were playing minutes for you last season compared to this season. And Arkansas ranks really, really low in that, obviously. But like Kentucky, Louisville, West Virginia, Vanderbilt, all these programs with first-year coaches in similar situations, theirs is actually lower, their percentage of minutes returning, and they're having more success. And that's with us considering that like Trevin Brazile is the only returner on this roster, which he's the only returner for Arkansas. But people just like to throw out completely the fact that John Calipari brought 3 guys from Kentucky with him. That stream, I mean, like those guys played for him. I understand it's at Bud Walton Arena now, but they understand the culture, the system, everything. Like that should have gave them a little bit of a leg up there in terms of continuity. That's why people got all bent out of shape. I guess it was in like August or September. I did one of those mailbags. This was a question that was asked of me. Like if Cal had the roster that he has at Arkansas at Kentucky, would they be viewed higher? And I said, yes, because people would have looked at it and been like, oh, he's got, 3 returning contributors from that team. And then, oh yeah, he's got these 5 stars coming in. He's got 2 of the top transfers. Like that would have been a surefire top 10 roster coming into the season. And people would have been saying like, oh yeah, he's actually got a little bit of continuity. But just because they switched from blue to red, people were all of a sudden like, it's just a brand new team. They just got Brazile back and he didn't even think Brazile was good. So what did you expect? It's like, I don't know. It's like a shifting goalpost thing that's kind of weird to me.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like it's not like these last 3 games are like super indefensible, they are 3 top 25 teams. All that's fine and dandy, but 2 of those games were at home. And like we've spoken about it a lot, like even the worst Mike Anderson teams, year 1, year 2, even Pelfrey won at home. And so it's like, if we're saying that like the fan base can't even be upset about losing home games, then I don't know what we're trying to say about Arkansas's program or their athletic department from a big picture standpoint. If you're like, telling fans they shouldn't be upset at an 11-5 start with the most accomplished coach in the country, and you're losing home games to Ole Miss, who you tried to hire their coach in the offseason and couldn't, you're saying fans shouldn't be upset at that. Like, then I don't know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah, I don't understand it either, but it is everyone's going to have their own opinion. They're going to have the people that are overly optimistic thinking everything's going to be fine, or thinking that, oh, well, what do you mean, what'd you expect or whatever, just to try to justify it. But there's no doubt that I think everybody can agree and should agree, and if you don't agree, you're an idiot. I'll say it. But if you lose tonight to LSU, there's no excuse about ranked teams or gelling or any of that nonsense. Nothing. There's no excuses, and none are going to be accepted, and all of them are going to be called out. Zero excuses. And that's just the way it is. So don't lose tonight, and you won't have to worry about it. All right, just do that.
Yeah, I mean, at least win this one. This is a Tuesday game. It's a long time before they play again on Saturday. Like we can't have these vibes for almost a whole week, man. Just get a dub, please.
We're gonna have 3 shows titled "Does Arkansas have to beat Missouri? What happens if they don't beat Missouri?" We're like, oh, shit,
we're doing that now. Like,
I know.
Who knows?
I know it's going to turn into a disaster area if it ends up getting that way. So just don't worry about it, because I know that there's not really a horrible team in the SEC. But I do believe LSU is one of the worst teams in the SEC. I know it's on the road, but I would be shocked if there's a raucous crowd down there in Baton Rouge. Well, maybe, but I don't know.
That's what's pretty interesting about this. Like, you think about Arkansas's 2 true road games so far. They were at Miami. Nobody was there, and that's not easy to play in. Like, you go into an empty gym, and it's like, you got to kind of create your own energy, which is something that, for whatever reason, Arkansas has struggled a little bit with. They figured out they wind up winning that game at Miami. Tennessee, you got 20,000 people going nuts, and that was like the first true hostile environment. LSU, ain't gonna be nobody there. I don't know if the students are back or not. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's not going to be a huge hostile environment or whatever. I will say, it pains me to say this, Saturday, a weekend game, so that always helps. Kind of a rejuvenated Missouri fan base there that doesn't like Arkansas. That's going to be kind of a rowdy environment. It won't be like Tennessee or anything like that, but it's not going to be an easy one. So it's kind of weird how these road games is going from empty to nuts to empty to nuts. And it's like the different kind of adjustments you have to make on the road. Hopefully they had a shoot around for this game today, and then they'll have one on Saturday. We can't have that as an excuse anymore. Cal's used it once, so if there's going to be anything else on the road, he's going to have to pull something else out of the old bag of tricks.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. This LSU atmosphere is going to be a lot closer to the Miami atmosphere. And yeah, I mean, it is kind of crazy. Missouri, when you give Missouri a competent basketball team, they actually do put together a pretty solid atmosphere there in Como. Like, I remember back in the day, whenever Mike Anderson returned there, we talked about that a couple times, how hostile that environment was. And I also think Missouri as a team is a little bit of a step up from LSU as well. Maybe not a massive one, but I think they're a little bit better team. They've had some competitive games against some good squads. And so I think it kind of lines up perfectly where Arkansas can kind of get their slump buster tonight against a team that might not be the worst in the SEC, but is going to be one of. And then they get a little bit tougher test against Missouri, a little bit more hostile environment, but you've got a few days to work. You've gotten some confidence back. See what you can make happen. It kind of gradually, and then you work up to playing an actually competent Georgia team. I think it kind of lines up nicely where Arkansas has like little stages of these next 3 or 4 games.
I just hope that Cal can just like hit the table and be like, we shouldn't have done a shoot around. That would be the one thing I change. We shouldn't have done that shoot around. He just needs to hit the table again and say what he should have done. That way people get fired up. I'm
still not sure what to think about Missouri just yet. I know we'll talk about that obviously the next few days, but it's been kind of a weird team. Like, they didn't do much in the non-conference, but the games that they did play, man, like that Illinois game was a 1-possession game. They beat Kansas, kind of beat their ass. They're at Mizzou. And a lot of that was because of the crowd that they had in there, which was impressive. And they really struggled with Auburn. They looked really good against LSU and Vanderbilt. They might just be kind of mid, but mid on their home floor can be pretty good, unless you're Arkansas, apparently. So we'll see, man. That's going to be an interesting game. I think they might be at Florida tonight.
They are
tomorrow, Missouri. Yeah, so we'll learn a little bit about them boys down there, I guess.
Yeah. Thing about Missouri too is just, and no matter what they do, they've already won 2 more games in the SEC play than they did a year ago. So they've improved. That's all that mattered. They've improved.
Beat LSU, right?
They did, and Vanderbilt. So there's the 2 wins there. All right, let's go ahead and get to some of your chats, folks, because we'll have a few more things to dive into as well as your phone calls, 478-344-6623. Let's see. Ryan says, Inside Arkansas, percentage chance for a win tonight. I'll take 45%. I'm actually putting it above that. I am. I'm putting it at a solid 65% chance Arkansas wins tonight.
Somebody asked me earlier on Twitter. I think I said 60.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. All things
Let me
considered.
pull up what the BPI has to say.
Oh, BPI probably says Arkansas has a 20% chance or something. They don't.
I think Arkansas's the slight favorite in this game, right?
Yeah, I know Bet Saracen's under maintenance, folks. So a lot of people are wondering, well, what's going on with Bet Saracen? Yeah, they announced yesterday that they'd be going over some maintenance. But last I saw them is Arkansas was favored by 1.5 in this one.
That's kind of what I've been seeing on other sports books as well. Arkansas, this game is not a top 25 matchup, surprisingly. So it's taken me longer to pull up this ESPN thing, but it has Arkansas at 41.4%. That seems a little low.
Kim Palm's got him at 51%.
There's not a like mental gymnastics to do. If Arkansas loses this game, there is no excuse. There is no like way out of it. Like there's no way to frame it as a not bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
100%. Well, that because they're
got to win this game. I'm going to say 55%, but I think Arkansas really like has to.
Yeah. I mean, early in the season, LSU looked like they might be decent enough. They were winning some games. They won at Kansas State. It was a pretty good win. They had some high major wins. But Jalen Reed's by far their best player. He's out for the year. And since then, they've really kind of struggled. And the young fella, Victorious Miller, now their backcourt is pretty good, but that guy's really started emerging on the wing. And I saw he's doubtful for tonight too. So they might be without two of their better players. They're starting a center who's a 6'8" freshman, and then Damian Collins, who couldn't hack it for Cal at Kentucky. So, I mean, no disrespect, you better win this damn game.
Let's say you just keep making the reasons as why they have to win this game even higher.
I'm just saying,
you just have
what
to.
I like about LSU, they turn the ball over a good amount. Like I believe they're top 75 nationally in turnovers. And I don't know, there might not be an SEC team that turns the ball over as much as them. And we've talked a lot about that of like, what's it going to take to kind of get Arkansas out of this? They're really good when they're able to kind of play up and down, force some havoc on the defensive end. They can usually turn that on the offense. I mean, Arkansas's got a good transition offense. So this might be the kind of matchup, the kind of game where they can really get out and run. I just worry, as always, about the 3-point shooting and the rebounding, which in SEC play have been real issues.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. Let's see a few other chats here, folks, because I know we got a lot of other things to get into. Shout out to Daniel Shee. He wanted to be in the chat today, but he said he has also copy and pasted half his roster from Kentucky.
He did.
Like your
point.
Very much did.
He's right.
Yeah,
he's right. We've talked about this a lot, me and Danny Shee.
Yeah. Also, Ryan came with a question. He says, so do you guys think that Cal is underperforming as a coach, or do you think the roster and players aren't performing, or maybe both?
I mean, it's probably a combination of both. I mean, there's no doubt that, we think John L. Davis is performing up to expectations. Heck no. And then now in SEC play, it's like, who is performing up to expectation? Like Thero, I guess. But yeah, there's definitely some underperforming on the floor. As far as a coach, I keep going back to, it was like an aha moment I feel like I had after that Ole Miss game, because I was just getting so pissed about like in-game adjustments and X's and O's and all this. And I'm like, okay, but for the last 15 years, I've been watching Kentucky, and I haven't hated Cal because he was just such a maestro, with the whiteboard drawing up the bangers. It's just they were always so much more talented and bigger and more athletic than everybody else, and they just overwhelmed you with that. And that hasn't been as prevalent the last few years because of the portal, and it kind of bounces things out or whatever. But it's not like he's really been this X's and O's type of guy. So from a coaching standpoint, where I might say he's underperforming right now is getting these guys to gel and click and play together. I don't think like his system or whatever is going to change, especially this year. I mean, he is who he is. His staff is what they are. There's not going to be a lot of tweaks to be had there, but he could be doing a better job of like motivating, getting the best out of his guys. And usually I feel like he's been pretty good about that, but so far this year, like it's just not really clicking yet. And he'll give you a million reasons why, But at some point, we would just like to see it, get a little bit better.
Yeah, the one thing Kentucky teams always seem to do is they find a way to impose their will athletically, because they always do have high-level NBA athletes, a lot of length, a lot of athleticism. I even remember back in that Willie Cauley-Stein era where they had like 3 7-footers. And so they always just, whatever their roster was, that just kind of became their identity, whereas like, hey, we're just these massive monsters. Some years they have a really crazy athletic backcourts like a Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox, where they just teams weren't able to deal with them athletically. And I feel like Arkansas has athletes. I mean, Boogie Flan and Adu Thero, like those are imposing type of guys. But I just don't feel like this Arkansas team imposes their will on any of their opponents in any way. And I think we've learned it's going to have to be on the defensive end if they're going to do that.
I do think that this Arkansas basketball team has less skilled playmakers than pretty much any Kentucky team I could ever remember. Like guys who can just get the ball, make a play, create a shot.
Yeah.
Who does that, And I think that's kind of a flaw in the roster build here.
I even talked to some guys that, of course, like Kentucky media guys, Bobby Regan and all that. And of course, they're loving what's going on. But I was talking to them, they're like, they didn't even expect it to be like this. Like even if in their thing of, because what did we hear about Cal from Kentucky fans that really were like hated Cal or wanted Cal to fail or whatever? Good luck losing in the first round. Like that's the only thing that they ever said.
Yeah.
And now it's become, I'm like, you guys, you can say it's like, oh, so we told you so. No, you didn't. You didn't say this. You didn't even say it was going to be this bad. So no, you're wrong too. So you can't claim that. But I think even them who had so much anger towards Cal even didn't expect Arkansas to struggle as much as they have so far this year.
This is the Matt Norlander thing where it's like, hey, Matt Norlander, you thought you were right about Arkansas ranking them 51 or whatever. Well, we're way worse than that. So like last year, I think it's kind of like that. But guys, I got to acknowledge this does 100% set up to where if Arkansas makes the tournament as a 10 seed and wins a game and maybe threatens that 2 seed, we'll have to acknowledge this is a new era for Cal. He sucks in the regular season. He waits till March to turn it on.
He's built for March. He's a built for March coach and a built for March team.
It would just be so electric if Arkansas sneaks in, like they got to go to Dayton for the first 4 or whatever, and they wind up making an Elite 8 or something. Like it'd be crazy.
That's what's funny is like obviously at that point, like say Arkansas really did win as a 9 or 10 seed or whatever, everyone would just immediately say, wow, you're celebrating winning one tournament game. Like that's where you're at. But it's like, you guys ragged on us. You guys set the expectation. You guys told us we weren't going to be able to win in the first round. And so it would be nice. And so I think that if you're an Arkansas fan, that's pretty much the only way out of this mess is that you sneak into the tournament and you win a game.
I will be absurdly obnoxious if Arkansas goes to like the Sweet 16 and Kentucky loses in the first round or something like that. I mean, I don't.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It'll be up. People are going to have to block me. Razorback fans are going to have to block me on social media because of how obnoxious I'm going to be. So I just really hope that happens, but a lot of work to be done before any of that stuff comes to light. But
the last time he won an NCAA tournament game, I think he was a 6 seed.
Was it 19?
No, because they lost to St. Peter's. The next year they won their first game. Right. They beat like Providence or Seton Hall or something. Then they lost to that really good Kansas State team in the round of 32.
Well, dude, one of his best runs in the tournament, outside of obviously winning it in 2012 or whenever that was, they were an 8 seed with the Harrison twins. You remember? And then they went on a crazy run.
They beat that Wichita State team that was.
I want to say they lost in the title game that year, or maybe the Final Four. But they made like one of their best runs under Cal was as an 8 seed.
It was in the title game, and that was the year that Arkansas beat them twice. Beat them in Fayetteville on the Qualls putback duck and went to Rupp and beat them. Yeah, they beat Kansas State, then beat the number 1 seed Wichita State, then beat Louisville, then beat Michigan, then beat Wisconsin, and then lost to UConn in the Final Four. But I know we're going on a tangent, but just really funny. The scores to those games crack me up because it just shows you how insane it is. They beat Kansas State 56-49. Disgusting, but hey. Close game. They beat Wichita State by 2. They beat Louisville by 4. They beat Michigan by 3, and they beat Wisconsin by 1. So it's just like just the margin of error, very
Cal
very
was
short.
That chalk talk, bro. He was letting that chalk talk at the end of the game, winning those close games.
That's right. And also, you were right, Curtis. They did beat Providence as a 6 seed in the 2023 NCAA tournament.
There you go.
Where I guess Oscar Sheboy had 25 rebounds in that game. God. Yeah. Planted right there in the middle of the lane too, no doubt about it.
Crazy.
So again, folks, we're going to be at Brothers Meat House tonight for the Arkansas LSU watch party. So come on out, hang out with us, and we'll do a little what to watch for presented by Bryant Technologies. They're dedicated to delivering high-quality network infrastructure and camera solutions for security purposes, and they take pride in their exceptional workmanship and commitment to keeping your business and operations seamlessly connected and secure. Whether it's structured cabling, security camera installation, digital signage, or TV mounting, Bryant Technologies has you covered, where they service the entire state of Arkansas, not just here, but also the bordering states of Arkansas. So they have a large footprint. So have Bryant Technologies help you out with all of your network and security needs. Give them a call today at 870-883-0330, or check out their website at Bryant's Technology. There's a little S in there, Bryant'sTechnologies.com. It's Bryant Technologies, quality work guaranteed. So what to watch for tonight, Arkansas and LSU. I'll tell you what I'm watching for. What I'm going to watch for is seeing a little bit better three-point shooting, because I love three-point shooting, and it's really nice because it's one more point than two. And I know that's the way college basketball is all the time, everything. But I just feel like in these circumstances on the road, do I want Arkansas to go in there and hit 10 threes? Sure, that'd be nice. But just be efficient. Like you take good threes. And when you're wide open, Boogie or Nelly or whoever, when you're wide open and it's a good shot, just nail it, man. Go out there and hit like, I'm wanting 6 of 13 from three, something like that. That'd be really good and make me feel the best chance of winning the game. And you can win the game different ways, but I'm watching for the three-point shooting, and just hopefully that can get going and then open up maybe more of the inside game and open up other parts of the offense is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, no, I like that. I'm definitely looking, offense in general. Man, my goodness, we talked about it on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast yesterday, John. Like, the offensive numbers are disgusting through the first 3 games here. They've played 3 very good defenses. Now, if you're going to call yourself an NCAA tournament team, you got to be able to score on anybody. But now they're getting into easier competition from that standpoint. If you can't score on LSU, we had some big picture problems here. So anxious to see what they're able to get done there. But I think for me, I'm also looking at rebounding, man. I mean, it's been a struggle for Arkansas. They've lost the rebounding battle in all 3 of these games. Tennessee and Florida really stands out. They were better against Ole Miss, but they still lost to an undersized Ole Miss team on the glass at home. LSU is a smaller team. They're not full of big physical specimens out there that should be, beating up on you. Arkansas should win the rebounding battle in this game, but I will say they got 3 guys in Corey Chest and Damian Collins. They got a wing and DJ Bailey, who are all averaging like over 2.5 offensive rebounds per game. You have to keep them off the glass. Arkansas does a really good job with their first shot defense. I mean, they really do. They don't give up a ton of easy looks on the first attempt, but when a team's able to get 2 or 3 shots every time they come down the floor, that becomes a problem. So I think, I'm looking for Arkansas to maybe hold LSU into single digits in the offensive rebounding. I think if they do that, they win the game.
I like that. John, you mentioned the 3-point shooting. It's kind of like crazy to me. And now look, I'm a Houston Rockets fan. So back in the 2016 to 18 era, when the Rockets had Daryl Morey and he had his MIT nerds that figured out that threes and free throws were like the only thing you should do in basketball. That's the most efficient way to play. My brain went into overdrive where I was obsessed with that for a while, where like anytime I'd see someone take a long 2, I was like, that sucks. But it's so funny to me how many times I've seen people complain that Arkansas shoots too many threes. They are 233rd nationally in 3-point attempt rate. They are not only do they not shoot too many threes, they don't shoot enough threes. They definitely don't make enough either. But their percentage actually, like we've talked about a few times, not really that bad, but they're so far down in volume that it's like you basically have to shoot 40% for it to be effective. I think when you're on the road, you really need the threes and you need the free throws. Now, obviously, we see a lot of times teams go on the road and the free throw discrepancy is crazy. But we talked a lot about another thing that people always say is, they shoot too many threes. They need to drive to the rim. I'm saying they need to shoot threes and drive to the rim because Arkansas is 224th in the country in free throw rate. And given this team's offensive struggles, we understand that, hey, Cal's offense is archaic. They're not going to be able to do a ton in the half court. They need that transition a ton. But another way out of that is if you're making threes and you're getting to the free throw line, it can cover a multitude of woes. And I think when you're on the road, even though it's not a crazy environment, you need some of those. You just need to make shots. I know that sounds like an oversimplification. Arkansas has to make shots, and the only way to make shots is to freaking take shots.
I want to throw some this won't take long because they don't have many players on the team, but I want to throw out the 3-point numbers to you guys in SEC play through 3 games. Boogie Flan, 5 of 20, that's 25%. Adu Thero, 0 for 3, that's 0%. DJ Wagner, 2 for 14, that's 14%. Jonas Adu, he did take one against Tennessee. He missed it. Jonell Davis, 3 of 16, that's 18%. Carter Knox, 3 of 8, 37%. Trevor Brazil, 0 of 2. Zvonimir Ivisic, 1 of 4. Billy Richmond hasn't attempted one. That is not good. 14 of 68, 20% from 3. Yikes. That's rough stuff. I do think they need to do some inside out stuff because like they're not creating a ton of really good shots through their half court offense. Every now and again, like DJ will get to the middle of the paint and collapse the defense and kick it out or whatever. I would really like to see them enter the ball into the post to Jonas Adu quite a bit in this game. He's going to have a size advantage. He should be able to eat in there. This should be a double-double game for him. But what it is I think a game where LSU is going to have to bring help if you get it in there to him on the block. And that could create some kick out opportunities for some better looks from 3. But yeah, all that has to go up, man. That's rough stuff from the perimeter.
Well, and also too, to the point you made too, Andrew, about the free throws, like, I don't want this to get into a game like it was for the Bama A&M game where 88 free throws were taken. Like that's just not fun to watch or anything. But it will be one of those things of, okay, because you're going to go on the road, you're going to have different SEC officiating groups, you're going to have different ways the games are called. If you get to the free throw line, that's pretty crucial too, but going up there and hitting your free throws, because man, it's been, not to say that Arkansas is a horrible free throw shooting team in general, but Adu Thero struggled a little bit, man, when he gets to the free throw line, and he's a physical guy, and you're going to drive the lane, he's going to get fouled, get up there and make your free throws. You got to find a way to do that. And I know we could sit here and talk about Nelly Davis all day long because that's what everybody wants to bring up. But Nelly Davis is a great free throw shooter, shooting 92% this year. So, hey, maybe if he gets a little bit aggressive, get to the free throw line, make your free throws. But just make sure that you're making the ones you're supposed to, make the easy ones. And instead of making everybody be concerned about you going up to the line and being like, oh, geez. Because what was it, the Michigan game in Madison Square Garden where somebody missed like both free throws at the end. It was Trevor Brazil, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Missed
And then he
both
made
free
the
throws.
block.
Yeah. So it's like it made up for it. But I was like, golly, imagine if
And
that
then
didn't happen.
Then he got to the line and had 2 more and he split them.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been making his stuff lately. After that, he went into the gym and he was like, all right, I ain't going to be missing free throws anymore. He's been making his shots lately.
Yeah. In fact, right now you got Jonell Davis is at 92% free throw shooter. Boogie Flan's at 83%. Carter Knox is at 80. Wagner's at 75. And then you got Big Z at 68. Adu Thero at 67. Jonas Adu at 61.
How many free throws has DJ Wagner shot?
DJ Wagner has attempted an exact number of
maybe 10.
20.
Oh, okay. That's higher than I thought.
That is definitely higher than I thought. I was thinking about that when he talked about Nelly making free throws. I was like, dude, Nelly doesn't even dribble. It's hard to get fouled if you don't dribble.
Yeah, well, it's funny.
Nelly's first shot needs to be not a 3, or the first time he touches the ball can't be a 3-point attempt.
Yes.
Like he's got to settle in a little bit into the games before he starts chucking it.
Yeah, may should have had some context because Nelly's only taken 13 free throws this year, so it's not like he's. So in fact, of all the players that have taken free throws on this team, he's taken the least amount. Like he is dead last in the attempts. Billy Richmond has taken more free throws than Nelly Davis has.
It's insane.
I mean, dude, it's crazy. Like the math just doesn't add up. Where it's like we talk a lot about an identity offensively, and I would caution against viewing basketball through that lens of just numbers of like, oh, you need to shoot X amount of threes, X amount of free throws. But it's like at some point when you aren't efficient on offense, you kind of have to look at where you're taking shots, what you need more of, and it's like there's not really any semblance of sustainability with what Arkansas is doing offensively. Like you just cannot exist in basketball in 2025 without threes and without free throws and really without being that efficient around the rim. I mean, they just went 2 for 16 with layups too. So it's like, they're really not good in literally any area of the floor.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll make that as part of our Alumni Hall question of the day presented by Alumni Hall. We're going to have some of those Alumni Hall giveaways tonight for the trivia night at Brothers Meat House. So come on out and you'll have a chance to win some cool stuff from Alumni Hall. You can shop online at alumnihall.com/Arkansas-Razorbacks. And you can check them out in store. It's the ultimate Razorback shopping experience at 3417 North College Avenue there in Fayetteville. Very simple thing. Hey, Boogie, Thiero, DJ, Adu. Those are your starters for tonight. Who do you want to be the fifth starter? Kind of felt like this is where it was going to go, but the options were given Trevin Brazile, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, or other. 71% of you said Trevin Brazile. That's who you want to have as your other starter, with 15% of you saying Billy Richmond, and then 11% of you saying Carter Knox, and 3% saying other. So I think it's pretty fair.
Well, they've been starting Carter Knox, and that hasn't necessarily been working out for him. I don't know how much of that is his fault, although I guess in a couple games, like that first 4 minutes or whatever before the opening media timeout, a lot of the points they give up is a direct result of a mistake he makes defensively. But I thought he was a lot better on that end of the floor against Florida. But yeah, I think it's time for a shakeup. That's probably the easiest place to make it, is to swap out your three and shift some things around. I would just move Thiero up and start Brazile. I think it's time. I think they should have done it against Florida. I think this is a good matchup for them to do that, because LSU is I think they have a 4-man that Trevin can guard without it being, like an issue there. So I like the Trevin Brazile idea. I don't like the Billy Richmond idea, and I don't have anything against Billy Richmond, but I don't like doing the, hell, this isn't working, let's start Joseph Pinion. It's like he's been playing like 4 minutes a game. Do I think maybe they give him a longer leash and play him more? Sure. But I don't know if I go from, hey, you're our 9th man behind Big Z, but now we're going to start you on the road in an SEC game. I think Trevin's probably the easy answer for me.
I think back a lot to that Missouri game that Arkansas had a few years ago with Aldis Toney, with Stanley Amude and all those guys. And they were so bad in SEC play leading up to this. And I remember Muss saying he thought about what would his dad do. And his dad probably would have just put out the most physical lineup he could have possibly found. So then Arkansas that night, they started, I think it was JD Note and 4 forwards. It's pretty much what they did. It was like Wade, Kamani, Amude, and Tony. And it was like literally just 4 power forwards in the lineup. But he was like, look, I just feel like that needs to kind of be the message I'm sending. That needs to be like our mentality. That's what we need to embrace. And they ended up altering it a little bit because Kamani got hurt. They moved some things around. But like that ended up kind of unlocking the right mentality and mindset for the team. And so I think you're kind of right, Curtis, when it comes to Brazile, having that lineup with Adu, Brazile, and Thiero. Listen, you're always kind of taking and giving. When you're making a substitution in basketball, you're kind of always accepting, all right, I'm taking out a 3-point shooter, but I'm putting in a rebounder, or you're kind of just, you have that mentality. I think Arkansas needs to just kind of embrace, if we're going to do anything, it has to start on the defensive end. We're going to be big. We're going to be physical. We should be better on the boards with this lineup. And we're just going to see if we can make it work. And then also, it's not like you have to run that lineup for 40 minutes. You can make adjustments from there. But I think to start this game, to start this challenge, and start this potential run, I think it needs to start with a physical mindset.
Am I the only one that just, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all, it's just because like Carter Knox is just kind of there. I'm not saying he's a bad player at all, but he's just a player I almost forget about all the time. Where I'm like, oh yeah, Carter Knox. It's just maybe because it's just not, there's one thing that he does really well. Maybe he just hasn't done anything that stood out in certain games. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but he's one of those guys where he's not bad. It's not like I get mad when he's in there or anything. He just kind of hasn't really done anything special, I guess, just yet.
Yeah, I think with Carter, the adjustment, there might have been a bigger learning curve for him. He was such a gifted scorer in the EYBL, and he was such a gifted scorer at Overtime Elite, but that's not system basketball. And I think that's something that he's really had to learn. And so I don't think he's really figured out. I shouldn't say that. He's getting better at figuring out how to get shots without it being, hey, let's just kind of give you the ball and it's an ISO and you create, which is something he can't do that well yet as a true freshman in the SEC. But we're starting to see him, learn how to find the open space, reposition himself, get kickouts for open threes, and he's shooting it better. He was the only guy that had a respectable percentage when we were going through those numbers a while ago. Right now, he's kind of a catch and shoot 3-pointer guy. And then hopefully as he gets more comfortable, tightens up that handle a little bit. He's got some creation skills. It's just not there yet. And that might not be his thing this year. The biggest deal for me, I don't have a problem with Knox being out there on the floor if he's able to be locked in defensively. Like, I think he does a decent job. Like, hey, my man's got the ball, I'm going to guard him here. But so many of the miscommunications when you see two guys guarding one and another guy getting an open layup or whatever, like a lot of those are on Carter. And that's why he's got such a short leash right now. And so it was better against Florida. I think that's the thing for him. But yeah, right now he's definitely in that role player mode. And they've tried to start him, and I feel like they've tried to kind of serve as a catalyst to get him going. Just don't think it's worked out so far for him.
Yeah, he's definitely in that role player mode. And you mentioned the defensive struggles, which agreed. Like, it just seems like there's at least 3 plays every game where he's not where he needs to be. His eyes aren't in the right place. He's not noticing things that he needs to notice. But what frustrates me even more about it is it's not like he doesn't have capability as a defender. If you're just building a wing defender in the SEC in a lab, it would look a lot like Carter Knox, and athletically, and the way and when he's in the right position, he's made a lot of good defensive plays. In fact, there was a time against Tennessee where he made a really horrible turnover, and then ended up being kind of the one guy in a 2-on-1 transition. And he ended up stopping it and made a nice play because he didn't have to think, all right, who do I guard here? It's just kind of react and be an athlete and play defense. So I look at him and I see the capability. You mentioned he's a role player, being the best possible role player of a 3-and-D, kind of the archetype for that. But again, there's a lot of maturity that needs to happen. There's a lot of, just understanding your role, understanding where you need to be. Because I think when he's in the right place, he's capable of making a lot of plays defensively. And so I'm sure we'll see that growth, but it needs to happen a lot quicker.
I think Carter and then probably Big Z are the two guys that get yelled at the most.
Yes.
During the games. I've seen Callan Boogie go at it a couple times. It's healthy, but I feel like the most amount of just a dude getting yelled at by the staff when he's getting, yanked out of the game and going back to the bench has been Carter Knox, and then probably Big Z after that. Those two guys, they get the business, man.
You know how sometimes people, this doesn't sound terrible, but you know how if they hold a gun at you, but if they do it sideways, it means a little bit a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like with Cal when he yells at players, because when he goes and yells at them when they sit on the bench, he doesn't stand in front of them and bend over. He's cocked to the side and leaning over, which makes it even almost even more serious, because you got this 65-year-old man just doing this and then screaming at him like that and just putting his hands out like this. So I definitely Carter's gotten it a pretty good amount, but it's, who knows, maybe we won't have to worry about any of those screaming moments tonight. And because also, what was it, Boogie? Yeah, Boogie, I forgot which game it was. It was in Bud Walton. But he almost had a Nick Smith type of jolt freak out on Cal, on the court, because he was getting yelled at, as in just leave me alone, just let me play type of thing. And which again is healthy, it's good, it's fine. But there's been some fair share of that. I tell you what, as part of the Arkansas update presented by Davis and Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. I wanted to ask this question to you guys. We always, anytime the Arkansas team plays an SEC team that has a lot of history, when I throw it to you guys, when you think of Arkansas and LSU basketball, what's the game that comes to mind in the times you've watched Arkansas and LSU play?
At LSU or just in general?
Just in general.
Gosh. Well, the one that immediately sticks out to me was beating them for the 3rd time in the same season at the SEC tournament in Tampa, and then being able to sit in on Will Wade's last press conference before he got fired, the next day, or maybe even later that afternoon. That's something professionally, it's always going to stick out to me. There's a couple more. I don't want to steal everybody, so I'm going to just overlook one on purpose, but I am going to point out one of the ones that sticks out to me the most was a loss. And it was Muss's first year when they went to LSU and gave up, 25 offensive rebounds and just got shattered on the boards, but they almost won that freaking game. And then they got him on the comeback to Bud a little bit later. But I remember watching that game being I can't even imagine Eric Musselman and the restraint. He wasn't showing restraint, but he wanted to kill someone that game. It was crazy.
And I'll say this to that point and to that game, Curtis, that's when I always felt like Muss was a good coach, but that's when I knew, I'm okay, this dude's a great coach. Because when you get I think I rebounded by 30 something. It was stupid. And they lost by 2 to a good LSU team where your post player is Adrio Bailey. I'm okay, this dude knows how to coach. That's when I figured that out.
That was when our old boy Darius Days was just a massive double-double every single time they played. I hated that dude.
He would have been the best 3-point shooter on this Arkansas team. That dude was unreal from 3-point range. It was crazy. Mason Jones hit a game winner in Baton Rouge. Yep. That would have had to have been Mike Anderson's last year.
It was
not Muss's first year, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's
Keyshawn Embry Simpson went off from 3 that day.
For some reason, when you asked the question, that was the first game that entered my mind. There's also, and I saw Wade brought this up, the game that Keith Smart coach, where they go on the road to Baton Rouge. I want to say that was right after that Missouri game that I just referenced. Mm-hmm. They beat them on like a Tuesday or Wednesday. Then they went to Baton Rouge. It was another Tigers, situation. And that LSU, because the Missouri win, that team was horrible, and they beat them by 40. Going on the road and beating LSU, who I believe was maybe ranked at that time, that was a big win, and that kind of kickstarted things into what ended up being one of the best seasons we've ever watched. There was also a game where I remember Nolan Richardson was there. Someone else might have been there, and Arkansas pulled off this crazy highlight of the year where it was like someone threw a full court pass to Dusty Hannas, and then he threw it back, and then someone had a crazy dunk. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a game that Arkansas beat LSU at home. And there was one of the plays of the year.
You said Nolan Richardson. You mean Mike Anderson?
No. This
was there.
Mike Anderson.
Oh, no one was there, at the game. Okay, my bad.
I remember it being a big deal. There might have been someone else.
Was
Bill
it Ben
Clinton
Simmons?
Might have been there.
Oh, I do know what you're talking about. Yes,
Bill Clinton was there.
Bill Clinton was there
for a lot of it. But this is like 2015.
Yes, because they were honoring. It was actually 2000 and because they were honoring the Final Four teams, because Eddie Sutton was there, and I still have the picture. It's you have Eddie Sutton, who's late in his life, calling the Hogs with Bill Clinton next to him and then Nolan Richardson next to him. It was a really cool picture.
Maybe have been 2014, since they were
maybe
it was I guess 20-year anniversary or whatever.
No, because I remember. Well, I may have been. It was when Dusty was there. I felt like, because that wasn't the game that he was talking trash to Ben Simmons. But I know which game you're talking about, Andrew. It's 100%, because I was in the student section for it. I think it was 2014. They were honoring the 30-year anniversary or whatever. But
gotcha.
yes,
they beat him by 20 at home in 2016, and it was Ben Simmons. Yeah, no, this is the game I'm thinking of, where it was Dusty Hannas talking to Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons was in this game. Moses Kingsley, Dusty Hannas, Anthlon Bell.
Yeah.
I don't know who made the play that I'm thinking of, but I remember this game for some reason extremely vividly.
Oh, yeah, no, I do remember that. Yeah, that was pretty cool too, because when Bill Clinton was there, anytime a former president comes into town, the security goes up to the 11. And I remember I was in the student section, and we had always, before the game, I had to walk to the cheerleader locker room. Always made sure I got there on the right time too, and got the signs out for the starting lineup. And I remember I tried to do that, and I got stopped by some dudes with some earpieces. It was intense. But also, I had a fat head of Bill Clinton when he had the pig hat on, the one when he was in college, and I was pointing to him. I just wanted him to acknowledge me, and he's sitting in front on Gucci Road, and I hold it up, and he goes back. He's like, doing the little biting his lip, and everything's got Bill Clinton president to acknowledge me. That was all. He didn't. That's it. But it was pretty cool. But yes, I do remember that game, Andrew. The game that you were talking about, I actually posted on our Inside Arkansas accounts today. The one that they went to, the Keith Smart game, when they went down there. Great game, so much fun. And just Jalen Williams, dude, it cracks me up. That dude had 4 charges in that game, and one of them was such crap. It was such a bad call, but you took it. Note did great things. But the one thing I always remember about that game is it was in his pool house, and he zoomed in on the broadcast, and it was all that. And then as soon as the game ended, Keith Smart was getting a lot of love. And I knew, I'm Muss is pissed. And then I think because they said that he was supposed to be out for a week or 2 to not be coaching in games. That dude was back the next game. He's like, I will not allow anybody else to get credit for this. I'm going to be back. So that was a great game, but also, great things surrounding it too for Keith Smart.
Yeah, that 100% sped up his shoulder recovery. That it became in his mind right then. He was like, yeah, sling, I'm on the bench. This is going down. I'm coming back. He was a madman. I remember, when he went in for surgery that morning after the Mizzou game, and I shot him a text. I was like, hey man, hope it all went well. Speedy recovery. Looking forward to seeing you back out there. And he texted me back right away, and he was like, hey, thanks. I'm good. I'm 8 pages deep into LSU's playbook scouting report. So I'm diagramming everything to get to the guys for practice today. I'm like, you're under anesthesia. Do you think this is a great idea right now? But he was nuts. I'll tell you, since we're talking about that year, because like they won that game, which was really impressive. Or I guess it was the year before. Let's see. Yeah. So it was 21-22 and they beat them 3 times in that year. The second game, it was it might've been senior night even, but they won that game by 1 point in Bud Walton Arena. That was the most home cooking I've ever seen Arkansas get. Like they should not probably have won that game. And that's when I was like, oh wow, Will Wade can actually coach too, because he just said, the hell with this. I'm going to create my lineup and I'm going to get it to where Tari Eason has Jalen Williams drug out on the perimeter and we're just going to attack him. And they fouled Jay Will out of the game. Nobody could stop Tari Wilson. Like Arkansas should have lost that game. Somehow they freaking won. It was crazy, man.
For some reason, I remember vividly, there was a midweek baseball game that night. And I went and covered a midweek game and then got there just in time for that game. And that was an awesome game. I guess it might've been in the month of March.
Yeah. It was
the last game.
Yeah. Like one of those things. That was a really fun game.
Well, was that, Curtis, I'm trying to remember. I know we're going a lot into it, but was that the same game? There was a crazy comeback in the final minute and a half that Arkansas beat LSU. It was that one. Yeah. Cause I remember, because they got some home cooking, but I remember the LSU player, and his name escapes me, did the stupidest thing where they were trying to kill time, and there was still 23 seconds left on the shot clock, and he drove in or shot a 3 because he was open and bricked it, and Arkansas got it back. And I remember Jimmy Dykes, say what you want about him, on the call, he just goes, that is the worst decision you can make in that moment, and gave Arkansas the ball and kind of initiated. But yeah, and another thing I remember,
Benson was who did that. Yes,
man, this is throwbacks. And also the cool thing of that was when I remember the celebration because Hog fans were going nuts. But our guy Gus Arginal, man, he walks out to the court and does this fist pump to where I think he threw a haymaker that was going 200 miles an hour if anyone was in front of him. He goes nuts. He was flexing his muscles, screaming. So it showed how much they needed that game. But yeah, I was actually at Town Pump in Little Rock watching that game.
That was also the infamous Eric Musselman sticking his hand in the cookie jar there when he was holding Will Wade's belly in the pregame embrace. You guys remember that picture?
Yes.
Yeah, that was back when I was writing game stories. Yeah. And that was the ultimate where I had 3 different things written and I was like, I don't know how this game's going to end up. And it was another one where I was like, when the game's decided at the last second, the story is just going to suck.
Oh, man. I do want to play this clip real quick, too, because this is another for maybe some of the older heads here. But for Arkansas and LSU, this game was actually in Fayetteville. But when you had a game where Shaquille O'Neal came to town when he was playing for LSU, Arkansas recently just joined the SEC. And I didn't have the one where Big O, Oliver Miller, packed Shaq, actually blocked Shaquille O'Neal to send it to overtime, which everyone says, yeah, it's impressive, but Big O's a good player. No, but you don't understand, how Shaquille O'Neal, you know what he was in the NBA. In college basketball, no one had ever seen anything like that. Just a 7'2" monster. So Big O doing that. But this was actually, because what was it? The game that Dick Vitale went to in Fayetteville, I believe, was the Cal ejection game in 2019, Muss's first year. That was the first time Dickie V had come to a Razorback game since this game that I'm going to play a little highlight for you. But it was Todd Day, and this is what it was in overtime. And it was just a great call by Dickie V as well.
Day goes down the lane, hits the run.
Can't check them one-on-one, Mike. There's no way you can check them in a one-on-one situation if they spread the court.
The lead is 6 hits and loses the ball. Here's Day. Caesar back.
Oh, get the bus, baby. Get the gold trophy. Get the gold trophy. It's championship.
Yeah, so just another epic game. I don't know what it was, but rumor has it, guys, that the reason that was Dick Vitale's last game in Arkansas for a long time is people really didn't like Dickie V because he, just like Arkansas fans feel like he hates Arkansas and talks bad about him. And so they threw a big chunk of ice at it and hit him in the back of the head. And that was, so that's what rumor says. I don't know if that was
Mike Anderson.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah. Golly, one of these days, maybe summer talk, we need to revisit that whole couple of days of when Mike Anderson went on Paul Feinbaum and went off on Dick Vitale and how just wild that was. Because Dickie V was calling Moses Kings. What do you say? He's not a man. He's a mouse. That's a mouse play right there.
What was he calling him?
He was calling him Beasley, is what Mike
Beasley.
Anderson said. He's like, he didn't even know his name. He's coming in our locker room calling him Beasley. He didn't even know who he was. And I was such team Mike Anderson that day. I was like, thank you, because I guarantee you that's what happened. Like, you think Vic Vitel's breaking down Arkansas basketball? Heck no, not happening.
That was back when the national media was on Kentucky's side, on Coach Calipari's side.
Yep. That was when I really, I didn't even care about who Ashley Judd was, but I really hated her then because she was saying like, these Razorback players are thugs. And I'm like, listen here, you little tramp. I'm going to get you. Like, if you start talking about my team that way.
God, the T words are flying.
I know. It was, there was a lot of that going on. Okay, well, good times though, reliving those.
Yeah,
So LSU. And also LSU, real quick, I feel like they should be better at basketball than what they are. They should be a good basketball program.
Dude, they do not care about it at all down there. It's unreal.
Weird. It's weird. I feel like there's a lot of talent in Louisiana, and I mean, they have some history. I mean, you think about Pete Maravich, think about Shaquille O'Neal. Hey, shoot, Big Baby Davis, and then went to the Final Four. Like, they've had some history, but yeah, for whatever reason. Real quick, though, as part of the Arkansas update, Curtis, I'm sure you saw this too, but Joe Tipton tweeted out Mohamed Silla, the top 15 recruit, number 1 ranked center. He's announcing his decision Thursday, January 16th, which happens to be 2 days from now. And the finalists are Georgia Tech, Oregon, and Arkansas. So there you go.
It ain't Oregon.
Ooh, 50-50 shot. I wish we could bet on stuff like this. Go to Bet
Saying he's a rambling wreck.
Not saying that either.
Yeah, like when I see Georgia Tech, no offense against Georgia Tech, but I'm like, I can't even remember who's the best basketball player from Georgia Tech. I couldn't even think of one off the top of my head.
I don't know.
Yeah, see, I don't know either. Because I always got them and Wake Forest mixed up a little bit, because I know Wake Forest had Chris Paul, Tim Duncan, all that, but Georgia Tech's, I want to say Georgia Tech played in a national championship here in the past 20 years. I'm pretty sure they did. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but they did.
Good on them.
Yeah,
good on
Atlanta
them.
and all that. But.
I really do like the idea of adding Silla if you're Arkansas. Like, if you go look at some of these, like the freshman bigs that Arkansas or that Cal had at Kentucky, last year that wound up not coming with him. You think about, Jaden Quaintance, that's one thing, but even like Santos Surreal over at Georgia, not killing it over there, but playing a solid role, getting 12 to 15 minutes a game, big physical dude, grabbing rebounds, blocking shots. Arkansas doesn't have that kind of guy right now, and I do think Mohamed Silla could be that. And he's got a very high ceiling, like he's starting to come into his own with his offensive game and everything. I think it'd be a really good ad, and like they're going to have to go out and just completely revamp that front court. I like the idea of having a super talented freshman in there, and sounds like they're in a pretty good spot. He was going to announce on Monday, and it wasn't going to be to Arkansas. Now he's announcing on Thursday. It's been pushed back, and I think there are reasons why that's the case, and I think it's probably a positive there for the Hogs.
So, Curtis, let me ask you, because everybody was talking about after Arkansas lost to UConn in that NCAA tournament game, why can't we just go out and get one of them big guys over there? Is this one of them big guys over there that Arkansas can finally get?
I mean, maybe eventually. Yeah, I mean, he won't be that as a freshman, but he's a grown man, and he's skilled. Like, he's one of those guys where the defense and everything is there already. He's got some really good instincts. He'll be able to block shots and rebound in there right away. But it's a raw offensive game, but you can see the vision. Like, he's starting to shoot it a little bit. And right now he's a, dump off and lob kind of guy, but he's got the ability to be a pretty damn good player, I think. And he's the number 1 overall center, according to On3, and then he's top 5 and the best available at 24/7 and ESPN there. So it's a good player. Would be a good get.
And that would be 4 for the class, right?
It'd be 4 for the class.
And I would have to do it, right?
I would certainly hope so.
You would hope so, right? Yeah. It would be nice to go ahead and get that squared away now and just move on. Because I mean, you think about it, obviously you had a coaching change, but it's like Arkansas's freshman class, like, they didn't have, the roster was such a makeshift, throwing it together the last second. You have guys that were obviously signed with Kentucky moving over, and it was just kind of a hectic offseason. And obviously you expect that in year one, but it'd be nice if Arkansas could just have a firm idea what you have in the freshman class, go attack the portal. What you're building around, what you have coming back. So I look forward to a much more sane year of roster construction. But I like what they're doing so far.
All right, so let's get into your SEC update presented by Rhoback. Go to rhoback.com. Use promo code HOGS20 for 20% off your first purchase. Games tonight, besides Arkansas and LSU, some really good ones in the early part of it at 6 p.m. You got Auburn and Mississippi State happening tonight, where, according to Bet Saracen, Auburn's 7.5-point favorites. The game's happening in Auburn.
Crazy. I guess because it's at Auburn.
Yeah, but no Janai Broom.
Yeah, this is an opportunity here for Mississippi State. With Janai Broom out, it's still gonna be really hard on the road. That's a fun game. I don't know how that's gonna go. That's a good one.
Yeah. Also, it's on 6 o'clock. That game's on the SEC Network, by the way. This game's on ESPNU. You got another top 25 matchup. Ole Miss is going to Alabama tonight. Alabama's 11.5-point favorites in this game, but I was a little surprised because you can get into the door there at Coleman for $2 right now, and I'm like, man, I don't want to say anything about Bud Walton and all this stuff, but it's like, Alabama, dude, you're number 4 in the country. You think that you would be able to get tickets to Razorback games if they were playing Ole Miss and they were number 4 in the country? I don't think so, but yeah, not because Auburn game $50 to get in the door, which understands, but yeah, $3 if you're in Tuscaloosa to get in.
I think Alabama might win and cover that.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's it's crazy coming into the year. Some people even had Alabama as their preseason number 1, and then you just haven't heard anything about them. But they're quietly just doing their thing, doing
what they're supposed to do.
Yeah,
essentially. And also, again, another great game that's at 6 o'clock. Texas A&M, Kentucky. Wade Taylor's out in this game, so say what you want about if it hurts or helps, but this game is in Lexington, and Kentucky's favored by 6.5 points, according to Bet Saracen.
Yeah, they'll probably get that one at home. Say what you want about Wade Taylor, but he is a Kentucky killer. He's had some big games against Kentucky. I don't know that they'll have enough firepower offensively to outscore Kentucky at Rupp. Feels like a pretty safe bet that Kentucky will have a good game offensively there, but Texas A&M, man, they muck games up, they'll fouls, physicality, rebounds. They'll probably slow it down, the tempo. Like if they're able to control the pace of the game, they can make that pretty interesting, maybe.
Will this be the first time in SEC play that Kentucky doesn't allow 100 points? They've been in some shootouts, man. Like every game they're in is like 110 to 107 type of stuff. So I wonder if this game is going to look a little bit different. But I think Kentucky's probably, even though I was the one making the case that Wade Taylor makes A&M worse, I feel like Kentucky probably gets the job done here.
But here's the deal: is I think Texas A&M covers the spread. I'm taking them in the spread. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think A&M is going to muck it up because I have a theory. We'll see if it's actually true, which it won't be, but I don't care. A team like A&M, we know what they do: offensive rebounds and free throws. If they get to the foul line, Kentucky fans are going to get pissy about, the foul calls are terrible, and it's going to get in their head, and those players are going to start. Their offense is going to be like, trying to overachieve and trying to do stuff. It's like, hey, man, we're scoring 100 points a game. We got to get going. It's going to get in their head. It's going to be a low, nasty game, not a low-scoring game. So I think it should be a good one.
Kentucky
if you're into
picked
that.
up a huge win at Mississippi State, and I'm still seeing them clip out, this should have been a foul. This shouldn't have been a foul. Like, you should enjoy the win.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I give them some credit. They're not used to having big wins at all here. But I'll tell you what, another sneaky good game is Missouri and Florida. Actually, I don't know if it's actually sneaky or good, but it's going to happen tonight, and it's on ESPNU. Same time of Arkansas and LSU, but Florida's favored by 10.5, according to Bet Saracen. So if you're feeling the Gators taking care of business at home, it's a good amount. But I still want to see that 7'9" guy, which I know we didn't talk much about, but seeing that guy in person on Saturday, that Florida player that's 7'9", is ridiculous and scary. So
I got some big boys over there, man.
Dude, like Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was on the floor getting ready to walk up to the media section, and that dude was under the basket just doing the mic and drill or whatever, and Big Z walked out. And so, like, those guys are right beside each other. I mean, he is an entire head taller than Big Z. It's craziness.
He did a TikTok with Shaq. And it was kind of funny because Shaq was like yelling at a little bitty guy, and he looks behind him, and it's this big guy, and he has a scary face. But Shaq, who's literally like 7'2", 7'3", this dude towered over Shaq. So I don't mean this in a mean way. People are gonna take it that way though. He looks pretty normal for a 7'9" guy. That's all I'm going to say. Like you've seen some guys that were that big who just, you're like, wow, this person just really is an interesting looking cat. If he was 7 foot tall or 6 foot tall, he'd look pretty, he would never know if he didn't see how he was 7'9". So I don't know. I don't know if he'll ever actually play, but still pretty impressive. All right. And we just got about 15 minutes. So here we'll get to some of your chats, folks. I know we want to get to that, but we got to do a little buy or sell action.
I want to say real quick about Florida. This is insane because like we saw they had those 4 really good front court players that they rotated in and out. Their starter from last year, who was really, really good, Micah Hanlockton, is like 7'1", 250 pounds. And he like broke his leg or something at the end of last year before the NCAA tournament. It's like he's still on the roster, but he's out for this season. But like that's a 5th, and then they've got this 7'9" guy who's redshirting for him. That's a 6th, like on top of what they already have. I mean, my God, what's Todd Golden doing over there from a recruiting standpoint of front court players?
Yeah, that's say.
I don't know what he's doing over there. Let's look into it.
Start an investigation. Yeah, okay, so we'll do a little best and worst of the week. A little buy or sell action. Or not best and worst of the week. You can buy or sell action with Bet Saracen, #1 sports betting app in the state of Arkansas. And just a few quick ones here, especially dealing with Arkansas and LSU, because some of these have to do with the Bet Saracen props and whatnot. But how about this? Better buy or sell that Boogie Flan will hit 2 3-pointers tonight against LSU.
I'll buy
2
that.
or more, I should say.
Yeah, I'll buy it. He kind of has to.
Yeah, it's true.
I'd rather him take a bunch of 3s than take a bunch of pull up 2s.
Yeah. He's not going to have he's not going to be overwhelmed physically in this game. I felt like he was against Florida. It really showed up on defense. He couldn't keep the ball in front of him at all. Tennessee's got physical guards, and like Zakai Ziegler is one of the best defenders in the country. LSU is good, but they're probably going to have like maybe the UT Martin transfer guarding him or whatever. Like he's going to have a way more favorable matchup. So I think he's going to have a better game, maybe his best game of SEC play so far. And yeah, sign me up for a couple 3s.
I'll buy it as well. Buy or sell that Arkansas will shoot over 35% from 3 tonight.
I don't know if I can quite buy it.
I'll buy it.
Okay.
What is that? 7 or 20?
Yeah,
I think that's exactly 35%.
Yeah,
they could do 7 for 20. I have no idea how many attempts. If I know how many attempts they're going to have, I can guess that. But yeah, I don't know. What were they, 3 of 17 the other day?
3 of 16. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. They're due for a game. They went through a stretch where they were like 8 for 20 every game. They're due for another one of those.
Yeah, I'll say that they hit over 35% too. I'll buy it. How about this? Buy or sell that Arkansas will have a SportsCenter top 10 play this week. So that includes the Missouri game. They had one this last week with DJ Wagner's dunk. But buy or sell that they'll have a SportsCenter top 10 play in one of these 2 games between Arkansas and LSU or Arkansas and Missouri.
I think I'm going to buy that. Adu Thero is good for it, man.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking.
I'm going to go sell. We're not here for the flashiness. We're not here to look pretty. We're here to get wins.
That's right.
Business mindset. I don't even want to do Thero Duncan. Lay that sucker up. We're like, is that Coach Carter where he like won't let him dunk, or is that Glory Road?
I think it's Glory Road.
Glory Road where he won't let him dunk. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Hey, do Thero, put the ball off the glass.
Yeah. I'll say this: Arkansas. I'm going to buy it that they are going to have SportsCenter top 10 play. But guess who? It's going to be Trevin Brazil. He's going to be back on SportsCenter top 10. He's going to either posterize somebody or do some flashy windmill dunk, something like that. But I got Trevin Brazil making a return to SportsCenter top 10.
I like that. By the way, how many times has a Dude Thero just barely missed a dunk that for sure would have been top 3?
Like
it's happened like probably 4 or 5 times this year.
I forgot which game. It may have been the Ole Miss game, maybe. But there was when I was like, if he would have yacked that home, that kid would have been done. He would have just ended his career. That was nasty. So yeah, maybe he can finally get one of those to go home too. All right, just we'll get some basketball, then some other random ones too. But buy or sell that the SEC will break the record for the most teams in the NCAA tournament from one conference this year.
Buy.
What's the record? 10?
I think they would need to get a dozen.
Yeah, it'd be 12.
I'm buying that.
Okay, 12 to 16.
I think they'll do that. I think they can do that.
The 4 teams that do not make it, if that's the case: LSU, South Carolina,
Vandy,
Missouri make it
Arkansas.
in? Arkansas, shoot.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, we're talking about it. Yeah. But it's not going to be Georgia. People are talking trash. Not going to be Georgia this year. Hey, it could be Oklahoma too. No, they're sitting at 0-3, so they could have it. But I buy that. All right, some random ones here. Buy or sell that Deion Sanders will be the coach at Colorado after next season.
Hell, he might not be the coach at Colorado after next week.
Well, that's what it's set up, because he's got reports are flying around about him interviewing for the Cowboys job, which I don't think he'll get it. I don't think he'll take it, but I don't know. You know, crazier things have happened, but just knowing how a hot commodity he is, and I know he went 4-8 in his first year, and this past year was much more improved. But do you think do you buy or sell that after next? He'll be at. Let's just assume he's at Colorado this year. Will he be at Colorado the next?
Nah, I'm selling that.
Yeah, I think this would be. So this is year 3 for him at Colorado. I think 3 years is a good time to step off. I think I could see him running it back with Colorado, maybe going 8-4 with a random. I don't know who they have coming back. I don't know what they've got going on, but I don't know. I think if he doesn't get the Dallas job, I don't know if I love him as an NFL coach. Like I don't think he should go that route, but I think he could get a job at a big time college football program that would put in a ridiculous amount of NIL. Maybe the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Well, all I know is that there would never be in the coaching realm a more meteoric rise than someone who literally in 2020 was not a coach really anywhere to going from that to being an NFL head coach
of the Cowboys.
Of the Cowboys.
One of the top jobs.
Yeah. So pretty meteoric there. And this last one, this is a random college football SEC one, but we talked about it on my Locked On roundtable thing last night, and I thought it was pretty fascinating. I want you guys' thoughts on it. And hopefully I worded it correctly because it's kind of salad here. But buy or sell that coaches in their current SEC spot right now, not named Kirby Smart or Steve Sarkisian, will not win a national title from their respective schools. So essentially what I'm saying is there any coach at an SEC school right now where it stands that will win a national championship at that school, not named Steve Sarkisian or Kirby Smart?
Okay, so like Heupel, like Josh Heupel, if he wins it at Tennessee, he would count.
Right.
I think that's going to happen. I think somebody will. I don't know if I should buy or sell it. Like I don't know which way to go there because that was a lot.
Yeah, no, that's it. I write words. It's fine.
You know who's got a real? I mean, I don't know about a real chance, but LSU's having a freaking good offseason.
Yeah,
LSU might be a team to reckon with next year. I don't think Brian Kelly will win the national title. I just don't like him. I don't like that fit. They're gonna have a chance. I mean, even DeBoer, who is like not having a good offseason, like it wouldn't stun me if in the next 5 years Bama won a title.
Mm.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to buy it because I just think you have enough guys that are kind of candidates. Like even Heupel, who like has done a pretty good job at Tennessee. Like, you know, I could see them taking a step forward and winning it.
I'm going to see. I was selling it because I just don't think anybody is going to win a title. Because people bring up Lane Kiffin. I just don't see Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss winning a title. Now, if
feels like he had his chance.
Yeah. And, you know, I know they did a lot of good things in the offseason this year and all that, but I'm like, who's to say that if he couldn't do it this year, at least get into the playoffs, how is he going to do it next year? And some people were saying DeBoer, which I would say that he's probably got the best shot at it. Brian Kelly, I think he can, but, you know, he's still got to see a little bit more out of him. Besides that, I'm not taking Heupel. I'm not taking Elko. I'm not taking Beamer. I'm not taking any of those guys.
Yes, sir. No,
I didn't even consider Beamer there, although they had a hell of a year this year. No on Elko. Like I actually think he's a really good coach. Now I don't know what his his roster builds and everything are going to wind up looking like there, but it almost seems like as a program they are perpetually doomed to 8-4 every year. But
that's why it has nothing to do really with Elko. It has more to do with A&M.
Well, I think Elko is a good enough coach to, if he had the right team, could win a title. I just wonder, and A&M has plenty of, you know, resources, plenty of, like, they should hypothetically be a very good, like, talent building program. I just wonder if Elko is like the guy, because at Duke, he was kind of the did more with less guy. I wonder if he's going to be able to bring in a roster that's a championship roster at A&M. I think it can happen at A&M. Hell, I think they've had some championship rosters in the last 5 years. But I just wonder, like, having a coach like that who's kind of more of a low-key guy, like, are they going to have a team that's really, like, on that Georgia, Texas talent type of level.
Yeah. I mean, I really hope none of them win, because I don't even know Sarkisian's for sure going to win. I just think that he's going to, I mean, he's been to the playoffs back-to-back years, so at least he's flirting with it a little bit. But yeah, it all came from everyone saying, oh, the SEC's cooked, it's down, it's no longer relevant, or no longer the powerhouse, which some people are taking exception to. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, I mean, you don't have a Nick Saban in here. And like one of the reasons was brought up of LSU, and Brian Kelly's like, well, because all the previous 3 coaches at LSU won a title, so therefore he will. It's like, that doesn't have anything to do with that. I mean, I get it. But
immediately becoming another national power as soon as he left is a real red flag with Brian Kelly, if I'm being honest with you. Another thing that's tough to say with like the Lane Kiffin and Kalen DeBoers of the world is we don't really know how far away they were. Like, for all we know, Ole Miss might have been the 4th best team in the country. We just didn't, like, they just lost some stupid games in the regular season. We didn't get to see them. Like, what would it have looked like if they had played Ohio State in the playoff? Would it have been closer than the Tennessee game? Probably, but like, how close? So it's like, we don't really know how far away Ole Miss was from really being a title contender because they lost stupid games. So it's like, I don't know if they're like 1 or 2 pieces away this offseason, or if like this really was like their best shot and it wasn't that close.
Could be the case. All right, we just got a few minutes, folks. We'll get to some of your chats and a few storylines here. I just wanted to bring this up. Did you guys see the new Walmart logo change?
Yeah, that was funny.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really cool to see the modern brand coming into play nowadays. But yeah, they wanted everybody to know that they're rebranding, and this is the new logo. So shout out to the local business here of Walmart here in the state of Arkansas. And also, speaking of, I'm glad that they finally changed that logo on the court of Bud Walton Arena, because when they put that on there and it was that yellow star, like, because folks, if you haven't been to Bud Walton, the logo they originally had on the court of Nolan Richardson's court was just no blue background, no nothing, just the yellow stuff. And I don't know if you knew this, but the court's kind of close to yellow, so you couldn't even see it. But finally they changed it and just said big blue Walmart right there.
If you remember when they unveiled the new court, we pulled it up on this very show, and we didn't notice it at the time. That's how close it was to blending in. So yeah.
People were like, hey, they got Tyson and Walmart logos on there. I was like, well, I see Tyson. I don't see the Walmart one there. So
the UTSA game this year, where I finally noticed it, and I was like, oh, they changed it. Now you can kind of see it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. See, and I know I always criticize them for the small stuff, but I'm like, who thought that would be okay? Like, how did you just assume, we'll just put this yellow, no stroke, no nothing sticker on the court and you'll see it just fine? I feel like that's pretty obvious for people in that work, but I don't know. So yeah, they changed it a little bit up. And also the other storyline I wanted to bring up, and before we get to some final chats here, is the porn star Bonnie Blue shattered the world record by sleeping with 1,057 men in 12 hours.
It's crazy to me how this has just become like such a marketed thing and a viral thing.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
She got the Wilt. She's got the Wilt number thing going on.
Yep. She did. And I saw that Antonio Brown, who, man, sometimes his tweets can be something.
It's a wild account, dude.
Yeah. But he put up a Photoshop of Joy Taylor holding up the 1,000, and
That's crazy.
It was pretty wild behavior. So, but anyways, yeah, everyone's talking about
somebody
this.
Somebody did the math on that. Like,
yeah,
I would have to go back and find the tweet, but it equated to like 40 seconds a person or something. I don't know. It's weird stuff.
This story fills me with a profound sadness.
It is
just
sad.
kind of where we're at in the world.
I know, because what I'm afraid of is, and I guess, I'm bringing it up, so I'm part of the problem, but I'm afraid of that this is going to be like, well, someone else is going to try to do more and all that. I'm like, I don't know if this is the type of stuff that you really need to be, in a positive light, saying that this is a good thing to do and all that. It's just weird. But
yeah, it is. Hey, did they ban TikTok yet?
No,
I think it's
not
next
yet.
week. It's like the 19th or something like that.
Okay.
I feel like they're going to ban it, but then someone's going to buy it. I think people have been saying like Elon Musk is going to buy it, which would be funny. I just don't. I'm not saying that they shouldn't ban it or whatever. We're not going to get into that. I'm just saying if they ban it, I still feel like it's going to have some sort of life still in the United States in some form or fashion.
I've seen some people, there's like these Chinese websites that, like, if you just type in a link, it basically takes you to pretty much TikTok. Like there's going to be ways around it. So I think people are going to have like just great value off-brand TikToks on their phone.
Somebody was saying like it's crazy that that TikTok's going to get banned before OnlyFans in this country.
She's got her
OnlyFans
priorities.
is stimulating the economy, bro. These dudes spend money on OnlyFans like ain't nobody's business.
Yeah. I mean, I just always
Disposable income.
dude, I remember when I was doing my radio show in Little Rock when all this stuff was really coming about. And just every time reading a story, it seemed like every day there was an OnlyFans update of like, this person gave up their job of $28,000 a year and now they're making $8 million a month. And just because they joined OnlyFans. Like I will always say it till the cows come home. The greatest privilege in all of life is hot girl privilege. And it's not close. Not close. All right. If you
I have no shame. If I knew I could get that kind of money, I'd quit on you guys right now.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I ain't blaming them. I'm blaming them at all. I think listen, if you had that option and you knew that you could go from, just basically, and I'm not saying it's not easy work because I'm sure someone would be like, they do work really hard. Okay, whatever. But just saying, it'd be a lot easier than having to, if you're a teacher or whatever, going out there and prepping to teach, sixth graders every single day. Yeah. Or you can just do a couple poses in your bedroom and call it a day. I think it's good.
Well, and it's a thing. It's a spectrum where it's not like everyone that's on OnlyFans is like just it's not all section. You know what I mean? Like there's plenty. There's a lot of people that are. So it's like if you can find an avenue to do that, for sure.
I mean, there's people that sell literally their leggings and whatnot, and have pictures of their feet. So I mean, it's for everyone out there. It's really for everyone. Few chats real quick before we get out of here because we need to after that discussion. Let's see. Hawkfan 40 ounce says Cal is not that bad of a coach. He had Kentucky in the tournament most years.
This comment was sponsored by ESPN Arkansas.
It's true.
I started because it just really made me laugh. Like, and it's an accurate statement. Cal is not that bad of a coach, but just being like, I mean, Kentucky was in the tournament most years. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
Also, Ryan says they don't have a Kamani this year. To me, that's a huge part of the issue.
It is funny because literally Kamani Johnson would make a difference for this team.
He would, but I will say, I see people say stuff like this a lot, and I feel like we are misremembering the Kamani Johnson era at Arkansas and misremembering how little he played in just about every game. I mean, there was a lot of games like on those Elite Eight runs where I don't think he was in the rotation. I understand like the premise of like you need some physical, you need a spark plug, you need an energy guy. But I think I just remember that era a little bit differently than a lot of people.
I think you need a rebound.
You definitely need a rebound.
Grab them.
You can use some FTA.
And your 7'2" guy does not grab them. And he doesn't play either. So
well, I think to your point, Andrew, I think it's about moments that people remember because they remember Kamani in that like one of those most intense games. This was San Diego State and Maui. And what he did in that game, or in the game against Kansas in the NCAA tournament, which I know like he didn't do the stat sheet, but it was those moments where you got that big offensive rebound on the missed free throw. It's just people remember that part of it, even though to your point, I think I was looking it up. He averaged 11 minutes a game in his final year at Arkansas with 2 points per game, 3 rebounds a game. And also averaged 3 fouls.
He also had a lot of pride in being a Razorback. He brought a lot of energy in the locker room, on the bench. Hell, I'd love to have a guy on the bench who was like just celebrating anything, showing any type of emotion whatsoever.
And he also loved to talk trash and get in people's faces on the other team, which was always fun. But yeah, I like this one from Wade. He said, who asked more questions in press conferences, Cal or Arkansas media?
Cal, without a doubt.
Cal.
I mean, there's only like 3 or 4 total that they let.
See, and that's what's kind of funny, guys, is, I know that when you guys are on Pod at the Palace post game and I'm in the producer role of getting all those clips, I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, okay, there's 5. There's going to be 5 questions at the most 6 asked to Cal. So I know it's easier to go through that. But yeah, he definitely asked more questions because every answer, he has at least one question in his answer. So yeah,
on the road, late night tonight, they're gonna be trying to fly back to Fayetteville. He might give 4 or 5 minutes tops.
Dude, he might tell Mike Kaywood, be like, he's like, connect to the Wi-Fi on the plane, and we'll do a Zoom from there. And then if it cuts out, then we're just not gonna do one.
He might send Coach Z to do the post game, dude.
That would be funny.
I would love that.
I would.
The more I think about it, like it being 10:15, 10:30, like would not stun me at all if we just didn't get a John Calipari appearance tonight.
And even if we did, it wouldn't be it's either be right as soon as the game ends, or it's going to be so late that he's like, hey, I got to get out of here, guys. We got to go. You know, I can only answer 2 questions and I'm out. So it's going to be one or the other. Also, Ryan wants to know, does Big Z have to become playable? Can we go the whole season with just 2 bigs?
He does have to become playable. I think it's really important. And that's my only kind of hesitation about tweaking the lineup and having Trevin in there too at the 4 and playing him and Adu together is like, if you can't play Z at all, that just makes that rotation a little bit more complicated, I guess, because then you would have to like insert John L. Davis or Carter Knox or whoever, and then, you know, shift Thero down and move Brazil to the 5 and then get Adu sub back in there. It just complicates things if you can't play Z. But if you can actually get him in there for 10 to 15 minutes that aren't disastrous, then I think that kind of lengthens your lineup quite a bit. But right now, he's not playable. If he can't play against LSU, he can't play against anybody in this league.
Yeah, and there's still going to be matchups where maybe it's like, okay, maybe this isn't a Big Z game. Maybe he only plays a few minutes, or maybe you don't play. But like, you do need the option. You need just lineup versatility, and Arkansas has 0 of it right now, or they don't even have options of like, oh, we can do a different thing here. And so, yeah, he definitely has to give them something.
He also has to quit rolling his ankle. Like they got to do some super tape on that thing, because apparently it happened again between the Ole Miss and Florida game at practice. It's like,
just get him to just wrap the whole legs, man. Just to get it out there, whatever it takes. But folks, we're about to wrap up here. But just as a reminder, tonight we will be at Brothers Meat House for our trivia watch party starting at 7. That's when trivia starts, right there in Bentonville at 405 5th Street there, and we're gonna have some prizes to give away. And then at 8 o'clock is when we'll do our live stream of the watch party game, where we commentate and give our own thoughts and opinions throughout the game. And of course, Pot at the Palace will have a little post-game action afterwards. So it's going to be a loaded night tonight, but come hang out with us at Brothers Meat House in Bentonville, starting up at 7 o'clock. But before we get out of here, guys, any final thoughts, or you want to roll out?
No, we just talked for 90 minutes. We're going to go live for about 4 hours straight here in a little bit. I got nothing left to say. Just join us this evening.
Definitely pull up. If you can't make it out to Bentonville, which, you know, we understand it's Tuesday night, whatever, that's fine. I mean, I may hate you, but you should come out. But if you can't, tune into the stream, because we're going to be, like you said, we're going to be live streaming for a while. So hang out with us tonight one way or another.
It's going to be a lot of fun, folks. And it's going to be great food, great vibes, and hopefully a great game between Arkansas and LSU. So that'll do it for us today. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching in to Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to us here on Inside Arkansas, as well as subscribing to all of our podcasts that we have in audio form, whether it's Inside Arkansas Live, the Bombastic Podcast, or Pot at the Palace. You can also check out our amazing website of InsideArkansas.com for all the latest and greatest up-to-date information on all things Razorbacks. We'll keep it going from there. So for Andrew Ellis and Curtis Wilkerson, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow at noon. We'll see you tonight at Brothers Meat House, folks. Have a great rest of your night. We'll see you then.